Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi, everybody. Great to be with you this week. Today, we are talking to you about how to create a CPD plan as a coach. The reason that we're covering this topic is because it often comes up when people are doing training with us, qualifying as coaches. Part of the requirement for the qualification is to think about how will you as a coach continue your professional development after your initial coaching training. And it seems simple, but actually there's quite a lot of things to consider when you're creating a CPD plan. So we're going to cover some of those basics with you today. Why do you have a CPD plan? What is it? How can you create one that's going to serve you and your clients?
Absolutely. And I think for me, a CPD plan is more important as a coach than it maybe was when I was employed in the corporate world, because in the corporate world, there's always lots of opportunities that are presented to you for learning. That was certainly my experience anyway. But when you're outside of that container, perhaps you're an independent coach, it's down to you really to seek out the stimulation. And I think it's really important to have that stimulation because it keeps you fresh and it keeps you on the edge of the developing industry, because the coaching world is a developing industry. So being able to go to regular CPD events, maybe they're short bursts as a short seminar or longer courses to enhance and develop your skills, is a really important way to stay engaged and interested and motivated as an independent coach. And I think as an internal coach, there can be lots of reasons to attend CPD as well, because often internal coaching programs aren't as in-depth as some of the qualifications that we offer. And so topping up the internal coaching training that you've had through CPD is a brilliant way to, to build and continue to build your expertise.
When we talk about CPD plan, let's break down the acronym. So CPD stands for Continued Professional Development Plan. So as I was saying, when you're working, in your other role, maybe in your corporate career, when you have your one-to-ones with your manager in those annual meetings, often you're asked about, how do you want to continue to develop? What would you like to do? As a coach, if you're going to become an accredited coach with one of the three, or with one of the accrediting bodies, part of the requirement of keeping and achieving your accreditation is undertaking continued professional development. And when you start out, you may be limited by funds initially, or you might have money to be able to invest. And as I was saying, CPD can be anything from reading books, it could be watching YouTube videos, it could be attending free webinars, it could be right all the way up to much more continued in-depth study or experiences like our emotions coaching practitioner training, for example. So there's a full range and suite to choose from. And what we find when we are supervising coaches on our programs and outside of our programs is they sometimes feel like there's so much choice. How do I choose? Or they don't know, where do I go to find out all of the different options for CPD that are available to me?
I remember when I finished my coaching training, I'd got the bug. And so I wanted to continue to do CPD. And so I think I went out and I did some transaction analysis studying. I did some Gestalt. I did some neurolinguistic programming. And then after a while, I was like, oh, I think I might be CPD'd out and I need a period of consolidation, because CPD is great, but you also need to be implementing what you learn to put it into practice. Like all things, right? If you don't continue to practice it, you're not going to get the most from the investment that you make in CPD. And so for me now, what I look to do is something significant every other year. And then on the years in between, I'm doing more smaller things. I'm always reading. I'm always kind of looking out for the little things like seminars that you described there that I can attend to top up. But the big investment I tend to do every other year, and then I try to consolidate that in the in-between.
A good place to start when you're thinking about what am I going to put on my CPD plan is to look at the core coaching competencies. So whichever of the coaching bodies you're thinking about accrediting with or following, look at their competencies. And you'll be doing critical reflection after each of your coaching sessions anyway. You're looking at what what did I do that worked really well, that helped the client to make the progress that they wanted to? And what was it about that that really helped? But also considering, where were the places in that conversation where I wasn't sure where to go next? Where am I lacking confidence? Where do I feel I'd like to have more resources to be able to support my client? And you can use that to map against those core competencies and also then start to research what CPD might help me to fill in those gaps in my coaching practice. Or maybe you've got strengths and you want to really deepen your knowledge and your skills and your experience so that they become even greater strengths. There are two different ways to be able to look at that. But those competency frameworks help to provide structure if you're somebody that likes something to review your the quality of your coaching, or the quality of your coaching.
It's like working back in the corporate world, isn't it? Often there were different competencies for different roles, and coaching's no different. There are competency frameworks there to guide your expertise and your skills. So, do you use them and check back in with them? And the bodies that we look at are the ICF, the EMCC, and the Association for Coaching. And all three of those have their own competency models, and they're very similar, and you can download those from their website directly. So as you are reviewing yourself against the competencies, perhaps through critical reflection, or if you're an established coach and you don't keep a critical log in the same way as you do when you're training, download the competencies and take a moment to just assess yourself against those competencies, like which feel strong for you, which feel like they're developing, and then use that as the basis. And then I think the other piece around what do you then do for CPD and how to create a CPD plan is to be thinking about, what am I passionate about? What do I really want to follow and learn? Because it's likely when you do your coaching qualification, there'll be something that really piques your curiosity. For me, it was neurolinguistic programming. That sort of fascinated me. So I went on to do my master neurolinguistic programming training, my master practitioner. I'd already done practitioner prior to coaching. So I sort of went in a different way to coaching qualification, but that was something I wanted to continue. And that gave me some really interesting transformational tools. And I think our emotions coaching practitioner training is there for people who are fascinated by that deeper rooted coaching, working with emotions, but staying very much in that coaching space and helping people to really change the relationship they have with their emotions to be able to achieve more easily their coaching outcomes. And there are lots of different places that you can go. We also trained as coaching supervisors, didn't we, much further on into our coaching, not so much because we wanted to be a coaching supervisor. I mean, we were doing it on our coaching training programs, so it helped for that. But being a coaching supervisor actually really helps you to be a better coach. There's a deep reflective practice that you get into in coaching supervision that I think is really powerful for your practice as a coach as well.
Yeah, I think when people are doing, when you've done your initial coaching qualification or course, a natural place for people is to think, oh, I did a little bit of that. I think I want to learn more about that. And I think that's what you're describing. If there's been a bit of NLP, or let's say your facilitator or your trainer has mentioned stuff, and you might look at their profile on LinkedIn or wherever and see, oh, what are the CPD things that they did? And I do that still. I look at other coaches or people I come into contact with, and I look to see what have they done, because I'm curious about, have I got any blind spots in my own CPD? So yes, as Zoe did my master NLP practitioner, I've done a systemic coaching course or qualification, which I really enjoyed. It's challenging in different ways. Again, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a team coach, but we were often asked to do work with teams, or my one-to-one clients talk about, the challenges of being in a team. So you can use CPD in different ways. And also it's a great way to network with other coaches. So, thinking about, do I want to do CPD that is online? And is that fine for me right now? Do I want to go and be physically together with other people? That I think that's always a consideration. How much time do I have, like actual time to do CPD? There was something I saw recently that I really wanted to do. It's not based in the UK. It was every Wednesday evening, our time. We're here in the UK. And I can't do it because I've got one child at one sporting thing and another child at another one. So both parents are needed to get kids to different places. So I'll have to wait until that rolls around next year with different dates. Are you somebody that likes to do CPD in a bubble, in an intensive period, or are you somebody that likes to have regular little bits of CPD going along in a course? And the resources, you need to think about, how are you going to resource yourself to do it? And that is financially, but what other resources might you need to be able to draw on? And that might be around, do you want to have some knowledge of what you're about to do CPD in before you start? Do you want to, what are your beliefs about the CPD that you're going to invest in? Are you entering into it with a learner mindset, or are you entering into it a little bit cynical maybe around things? What energy do you want to have as you kind of embrace the opportunity that you've got? And then how are you going to measure the return on investment? And yeah, that's a very personal question, but these are all things that we support our coaching clients with, when they're looking to achieve their goals. This is the same thing. This is really an opportunity where we can use our coaching toolkit to help us form a CPD plan that's going to support us to achieve our goals as coaches.
Yeah, I think as well as measuring your return on investment, it's around how when the CPD plan in general. So let's say you've pieced together and identified a number of different places that you want to develop. Maybe it's some books you can read, some seminars you want to go on, and a course you want to do in the future. How are you going to keep yourself on track? Because it's very easy to put that CPD plan in the drawer and just forget that you ever spent the time doing it. So what are the ways that you're going to be both maintaining your momentum on your CPD and also checking in around, are those CPD things still relevant for you? Because if you've identified a 12-month CPD plan, in 12 months' time, you might feel, actually, I feel like I've moved on from that now. So it's almost like a constant review process, and like something that came onto our radar. Well, it's been on our radar for a while, and we've been looking for the right provider, is about racial equality in coaching. It's one of the things that we want to invest in and really start to gain more resources and wisdom in ourselves. But we just haven't been able to find I don't know, the piece that felt like it fitted. And now we have, which is really exciting. So it's about having an awareness of where you want to develop, and also then keeping your eye open, keeping yourself accountable for how you're going to find the solution that you want to put in for that development need.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage people to keep CPD broad. So as you were saying there, so like we think about CPD in terms of how we run our business as well. So it's not only focused on our coaching knowledge, skills, expertise. It's around the whole piece to do with it, also including our resilience, and how we can invest in that. So when we're thinking about writing a new course or program around coaching, we think about what's the environment that we need to be in, what's going to stimulate us to create our very best work. I was talking to somebody in a group supervision yesterday, and visualization came up, and then we were talking about maybe hypnotherapy might be a good or useful CPD to do. Again, you don't need to think, well, I will only do that if I want to be a hypnotherapist, or add that in as another tool into what I offer. But what can you draw from that? The skills that you can embed into it. And when you think about progressing as a coach, so people that do our training are often thinking, right, I do want to become a master level coach, but they're starting out, some from very little coaching experience, maybe in the beginning. So to become a master level coach, if we take the European Mentoring Coaching Council, you have to, at the master level, to get that, be able to demonstrate how you've contributed to the profession over a sustained period of time. So if that's part of a longer term plan, start thinking about what CPD is going to help you to achieve that and to demonstrate it, so that when you get that level of coaching hours and experience behind you, you've already got some of the evidence that you need to be able to make that application. And I think often with CPD plans, people keep it quite short-term focused. And I think that's useful to have CPD, but spanning over a much broader term.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not always easy, is it? Because you can't always identify, what's needed in the future. But when you said about CPD being broad and contributing to the profession, one of the things maybe about volunteering for one of the coaching bodies as example. So it's not necessarily about you learning new skills, but you are contributing to the profession and learning about the coaching industry, connecting with other coaches as you do. So that is also valuable, not classic CPD, but something that could be really important for you to put down on your CPD plan. And that's one of the things that we did relatively early on in our coaching career, was do a stint of volunteering with the EMCC, where we created a mentoring scheme for them. So that helped us when we came to apply for our master level accreditation. I think the other thing around CPD is thinking around connecting with other coaches, sharing ideas, get out there and build a network of coaches that you can learn from. So as Jo said, she's always got her eye out either on LinkedIn. And we recently, we had the pleasure of being able to connect with David Clutterbuck, and we were like, what CPD would you recommend? Like, he's a prolific author in coaching, and he's like, supervision. Like, I would invest in supervision every time, so it's really useful to gain other people's perspectives on what's been the most valuable piece of CPD for you.
So if you are thinking, I don't know where to start with a CPD plan, or actually, do you know what? I haven't really thought about that for a long time because I've been so busy doing coaching. I really need to go back and look at that because it will really energize me now I've listened to this today. If you want a template to be able to use, then you can visit our website, igcompany.co.uk/CPD plan, and you can download the template, and that'll give you a starter for 10. Sometimes having a document to complete can be really helpful just to collate those thoughts. And if you are interested in doing our emotions coaching practitioner training, we've got all of the dates for this year and next year up on our website, and you can book direct through the website.